Greetings, everybody. I hope you're having a good day. I want to walk you through the lab activities that are in our lecture notes. So the first thing we're going to do is we've got to set up our folders to retain the work that we're doing. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that. And basically, what you're going to do is you're going to click on two zip files that are in Moodle. The first one is going to be the actual folder structure. So let's go ahead and click on that. And let's also click on, every chapter is going to have some lecture files. So again, these are zip files that we will utilize for that chapter. So we want to click on that. These are going to be C# code files. So let's go ahead and click on that as well. All right. So the important thing is, right now I'm going to bring up two folders here. We got our repository. This is where we're going to put everything and downloads. Okay. So we're going to have two download files. So right now we got our first one. The other one hasn't come across yet. Hopefully soon it will. But let's click the CIS 130 student.zip file in there. So we're going to drag it over to this area called repository. Okay. And so it's right here. Okay. Now you can put this anywhere, but I want to highlight where I put it. It's looking for the source code. There's a folder under my user ID called source and then repository. So I put this zip file in there, and now I'm going to extract it. So again, to extract this, you're going to do extract all. One of the things that I think you want to do when you extract, yeah, mine actually came all the way over here. Let me try to get that. So what I usually do when I extract the files is I get rid of the folder right here because it's going to create this folder anyways. And I just do it from the root of where I want everything to be located. And I just hit extract. And what's happened is it'll open up the folder again. We don't need to do that. But if we look at, oh, there's one other thing that I forgot to tell. Well, we'll do it on with the project. But if you look, it's created all these folders. Okay, so we got assignments. This is where you should probably keep your assignments. You got your lecture. You got your practice, and you got your test. So nothing's in any of these at this point. Okay, so if we look at tests, for example, you will not find a test. It's blank. Okay, and same thing for assignments. You will be it blank, and the lecture file is where we're going to work. All right. So now we have this folder structure under source repository. And again, you can put this wherever. It doesn't even have to be under that. Also, if you're working at school, you're going to do something similar on your H drive, okay? You're going to create this structure on your H drive as well, so that you can work in both places. I would recommend you doing both places because when you are taking the test, you're going to want to have your files that you can look at to help you take the test. All right. So anyways, now I've gone into my lecture subfolder and I'm going to drag chapter 01 over to here from my download folder. Okay. And so I'm going to, again, right click on this. Well, first, one of the things for each chapter that you download, whether it's an assignment, whether it's a lecture, I want you to do this. Right click on this, go to properties, and make sure you unblock, because Windows doesn't know if this is safe or not safe. So we're going to unblock it. And then we're going to apply it and say, okay. Okay. Now you should be able to extract all your files. So you're going to do extract all again. And of course, once again, I recommend getting rid of the last folder because it's going to create that folder anyways, and hit extract. And it takes a second. Okay. One of the things that I've done with Visual Studio is I put it on my, I've dragged the icon down here so I could run it from my start menu. Okay. So that might be something you want to do, is take it from your start menu and just drag it to your toolbar. Okay. Or your taskbar. So that's something I've done. I can get rid of my download. And now if I go look at chapter 1, we're going to see something called financial calculations. This is actually the lab activity that we're going to be working on. All right. All right. So hopefully yours looks something like this. All right. Now, as we are, now to go into financial calculations, and again, this is assuming that you've already downloaded and installed Visual Studio. You're going to see, if you go into here, you're going to see this folder structure under it. Okay. And we can run the application from either here, or we can even go and run the project. So either or. Usually these are in the same folders. This one's a little bit unique. They don't have to be in the same folders, but we can run either the CS project or the SLN, which is the solution. Okay. I didn't want to create a shortcut. All right. All right. So let's just go ahead and run it from here. And obviously to run it, since this project's already been created, we can just double click on this. And by default, it should bring up Visual Studio. Okay. And so Visual Studio is coming up. And we are currently on page 6 of 16 in chapter 1. So after we open the application in our Visual Studio IDE, you're going to see a lot of files. Okay. Now, for the first time, you're not going to see this project window, and you may not see the toolbars. We'll talk about those in a little bit. If you ever see you have the wrong, if it ever asks you to install .NET, do not do that. Just go here, because you should have .NET Core already loaded. I would actually go to the project, and you go to financial calculation properties. That's a namespace for this whole solution. And make sure that you have .NET 8.0 selected. And I will show you that quickly. As it works, I'm bringing it up. Okay. All right. Slowly but surely, it's coming up. Yeah, and by the way, as you look at this video, you should be doing what I'm doing. All right, you can start and stop the video. I do have my framework is .NET 8.0. Whenever you don't see framework after this, that means that it is core. What's core? Core means you can use multiple different operating system platforms. Okay. So, so this is what we're looking for. And yes, we are using Windows. Again, I'd be interested if you could use this as a Mac. Okay. All right. So anyways, we have the right one selected. Sometimes, you might have 7.0 selected and it's going to tell you to, and because you've installed the latest version of Visual Studio 2022, the community version, it gives you 8.0. All right. Let me just close this down. All right. So we have a blank screen. And by the way, you should be fine. I'm looking at my notes. You don't, I'm not going to keep on bringing them up on screen because you have access to that. All right. So one of the first things, so after we've done that, we see something called the Solution Explorer. Basically, these are all the files that you have in your folder loader. And some of these have sub files, as you can see, and we will go through that. So if we were to close this down, close this down too, obviously, and you could actually, now to bring it back, we would go to View, Solution Explorer, and double click on, or just click on that. All right. Now you can move this around if you like. Ideally, I like to pin it and see. And so we brought it back over, and let's try to pin it. Oh, by the way, you can do show all files if you want. You can enlarge this, you can make it smaller. All right. You can show all your files if you like. Okay. So these are all the files under that. You can show the subs. Okay. All right. So we have this, and I'm trying to see where the pin is. I don't see it. Yeah. Let's close it. Let's bring it back up. And we go to View. We go back to Solution Explorer. We're going to dock this. All right. So now we don't have to worry about it moving all around. All right. Now, we're going to double click on program.cs. Okay. This is going, whenever you see program.cs, okay, what it's going to do is it's going to show us the code of the program. Okay. And just like you learned if you took C, the main thing that's going to start whenever you run a program in C is going to be the main function. So similarly, under our namespace of financial calculations, the main method that's going to run is main. Okay. And this line right here tells the application when you run, we want to run the main form. Okay. So we've docked it, we've undocked it. So right now we're going to allow this to be, we can close this down if we like. Okay. And again, we looked at show all files. So, we could toggle back and forth for that. We can turn that on and off. Okay. And again, you can mess with all this as much as you want. Now what we're going to do is, so we're going to look very shortly at the main form, okay? Because this is what's going to run when we run our application, okay? Now, so let's go ahead and let's double click on main form. Okay, and this is going to load the GUI of this program. And it will slowly but surely load that. Okay. And this is the form that we're working with. Some other things to note while we're here, you don't, right now you do not see, you don't see the toolbox, and we can bring the toolbox up because these are all different objects within the toolbox. Okay. So let's go ahead and bring the toolbox up. So we're going to go to view, and we're going to go to toolbox. Okay. And so now you see the toolbox. And again, you can pin or unpin that. I like to show the toolbox myself. Okay. Another thing so we got one tab up here. There's also code behind this. Okay. So the way to look at the code behind is to go to view and look at the code. All right. So we see the partial class form main, and these are some of the things. This is the code behind. This is actually the area that you'll be programming in. Okay. So, this means form show, form, when we want to click these things are going to happen. Let's take a look at button BTN _ click. Okay. And we see that the application is closed when you click on this. This is a method of the button that we described right here. This button right here. Let's take a look at this button right quick while we're here. And we can look at the properties of this button. Okay. So let's bring up the properties window. And usually it defaults it down here. Again, you can make this different sizes. For example, let's say we wanted to, let's go down to size. Right now it's 72 by 27. Okay. Now what happens if we drag this out? It went to 135 by 27. So you can see how these are totally interact with that. Okay. And then we created the text. You might be saying, well, this is really EXIT. And what's this ampersand? And we'll talk more about that. The ampersand before any letter says, if I were to hit Control or Alt X, it would run this button. Okay. What else do you need to know? Not a whole lot else. Okay. But right now, let's go take a look at our folder. So we see all this, okay? And again, we can go between showing everything and showing something. Some of the stuff that you don't see are like the bin and the object. The bin is actually where your executable is. It could also be where your DLL. Sometimes you're making this a downloadable library. And we'll go look at that, but you can see pretty much everything from there. Okay. And when we compile it, you'll actually see a .exe happen right here. All right. All right. So, but let's go look at our folder structure while we're here. So if we go into our folder, and by the way, we're on page 8, you're going to see something pretty similar to the solutions. The solution view. Okay. And again, you'll see all that stuff under here. Okay. And within time, you'll start to understand this more and more. When we compile, because we're using .NET 8.0, the executable will actually be put in here, in this folder. We'll prove that in the. All right. Now, important thing, if you want to rename, copy, or move, do not use Visual Studio to accomplish this. Save the work and use File Explorer to move or copy your project from one location to another. Now, what do we mean by that? Let's say, let's say I wanted to move this to somewhere else, like financial calculations too. Don't do it from Explorer. Do it from, don't do it from Visual Studio. Do it in Explorer, Windows Explorer. Okay. You will mess up Visual Studio if you do that. All right. All right. So, topic 4, this shows you another project that we're not going to do right now. But if you were to create a Hello World program, which I would invite you to try to do, because we know every time we write a program, we have to create a Hello World. But it would, let me bring up the handout. see, where is that? Oh, right here. So we're all the ways over here. So when there's a namespace created called Hello World, okay? And a class is called Hello World. And again, you have your main and you have your display Hello World. So this is so all this is under the class Hello World. Okay. Um, and again, we use curly braces. That's what they're called, curly braces. Well, they're actually called braces to enclose um, uh, a group of code that we want to run in a method. It's again same, very similar to C and C++. Okay. Um, now, if we compile Windows, it's going to use all these assemblies to make an exe. Okay. So, for example, when you create a form, it's going to be using all the stuff that's in systems.windows.forms. Okay. And so you just need to know that. It happens automatically. And so when we right click on the form explorer, let's just do that right quick. So let me see. So when we right click on that, so and I select view code, this is what we're going to see. Okay. Now, we'll talk more about inherited, not inherited, but all these right here, and again, just like C, these are all libraries that have been added into your program, and they're available for your program to use. Okay, so these are all available to you. Okay, and in fact, uh, Visual Studio is utilizing all these libraries to do all the fancy stuff that you've done right here. All right. Now, assuming that we don't have any errors, where we're at right now, so like, let me just explain this. For example, systems.windows.forms contains all your objects like your labels, okay? Contains your buttons. I mean, it contains your text boxes, okay? Your picture box, all that stuff is contained in Windows.forms, okay? It's what allows this program, Visual Studio, to be so powerful. All right. And it's all contained in a windows.form.dll. Let's go look at that right quick. So here we are. Over here. Here. But these are all available And we're not going to go look at. They're actually under your .NET 8 core. Okay. I don't think they're in this program. Windows just knows where they are. They're not copied for each program. Okay. All right. But let's go back, and we're going to be on page 11 now. We're going to run the application. Okay. Now, let's go back to Visual Studio. And again, we can close these down or have them open, whatever. Again, I want to make sure you know how to get the toolbox, which is in the view, and get your properties. Usually this is what my window looks like when I'm programming in .NET, in Visual Studio .NET. Okay. It looks something like this. I have my forms, I have my code behind. You can have multiple things opened at once. But to run your program, what you're going to do is you're going to, you can build your solution or you can rebuild it. What build solution does is it builds it for the first time. What rebuild does is it rebuilds only what you've changed. Okay. So now you don't have to do that. You can go right to the start button, which is right here. And you can click on that and it will build it automatically. Okay, and you're going to see it going through the process of building your application. So this is not an interpreted language. This is it's going to create an exe for you. And I'll show you that shortly. But once you run your program, as long as there's no errors in it, catastrophic errors, you're going to be running the program and it will actually bring it up. So there it is. This is your program. Now, if I close it down, you'll see that. And just to prove that, if we go look, what we're going to see is we're going to see an exe under bin debug net 8.0. And now this has all appeared. It's made a downloadable library, but it's also made this exe. And this is actually what we're running right now. And so let's just close it, you know, make this all smaller. This is the program that's running. So if we click calculate investment, this is all. We can now run our program and test it. So let's say 100, tab 5, tab 7, and then hit the calculate button. Notice how here, this shouldn't even be selectable, but here is kind of grayed out, even though it's a text box. We're going to probably use labels to receive calculations. But if you hit calculate, it calculates what the future value, if you invested $100 every month at it with an interest rate of 5% over the next 7 years, this is the amount of money that you would have. Okay. And you could go backwards if you wanted to. So we've looked, and again, on step 20 on page 11, you've seen that exe, and that's what we are actually running. That's what Visual Studio built for us. Okay. All right. So that is our lab activity, our first lab activity. Let's try another lab activity. Okay. So we're going to close this down, and if you remember, we'll take a look at if we click here, or if we hit the X, our program actually stops. Okay. And again, you can see hitting the X, it's underlined. We have an ampersand there. And if we look at the code behind, when we click the X, this right here, this bunch of code ran. Let me show you one other thing that is important. Again, I may be showing you this multiple times, but let's take a look at this, okay? This exit button, okay? And again, we named it BTN exit. Find a standard that we use, and again, it's good to follow standards. But we can see all of our methods. They're called events. You can have all these different events happen with a button, okay? The default one for this is click, okay? And we actually put a method here that we created for ourselves. You're going to be doing this a lot, okay? But these are also all events that may happen, and you can put a method behind any of these events. So this is event driven. When the event happens, such as click or double click, this button will run. And in our case, it was used to exit the program. All right. Now let's talk about our Splash project. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and close this project down. And the way you could do that is you could just you literally could say well, I thought it was here. You can do file, and we're going to close the solution. Now you could just, if you hit just close, it's going to close the form, but we want to close the whole solution, so we're going to hit close solution. And of course, if you didn't save something, then it would ask you. All right. This time we're going to create a project. We're going to call it Splash Project. Okay. So let's go ahead and call it Splash Project. So we are currently on page 12. Okay. And let's say create new project. Right. Now, again, I've selected my filters. I want it to be C#. I want it to be a Windows project, and I want it to be a desktop. Okay. And so let's go down here and select the correct one. And in this case, it's going to be this one. Okay. We're not going to use framework. We're going to use core. So we don't want .NET framework. We want the core. Okay. So let's go ahead and select this. Go next. It's going to ask us where to put it. Okay. So where do we want to put this? We want to find our lecture subfolders. So let's take a look at that. And again, it's under student and under lecture. Okay. And under chapter 01. Okay. So we're going to do it there. we're going to select that folder, and we're going to select Splash Project. Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't put a space here. I didn't. Okay. And we can place the solution in the project in the same directory. That's fine. Same folder. We're going to hit next. Now, again, your framework is not, it's always going to be the core, not framework. Okay. So we're going to use .NET 8.0 and long-term support in this case. Okay. Obviously, this was written a long time ago, but we're going to use 8.0. All right. So let's go ahead and say create. Oh, it's creating the project, creating all the files. All right. So our Flash application is going to look something like this. Okay. And you can see how it's supposed to look on page 14. But let's walk through the steps. All right. So the first thing is, let's close this down. And let's rename it. Remember, we want to rename it from our solution place and rename it at the highest level. So rename everything under here. So it's obvious. So let's hit rename. And what we do is we want to rename it to Splash Form. So type in Splash. Okay. Not from, but form. There. All right. So I've renamed it to that. If I hit enter, and really everything underneath it's going to rename. That's why you want to do it at the highest level. Okay. And of course, we didn't change the .cs extension. Okay. So we're going to select the form in the designer window. So let's double click on it now. Still named form 1. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to rename form 1 to form Splash. Now remember, you can look at these alphabetically or by category. I kind of like alphabetically, and we're going to go look at for the name. The name is the only one that won't be alphabetically because it's actually the name of the object that we're bringing in. Okay, so we're going to call it FRM, and we're going to do Splash. All right. And so we're going to name that. So this is the internal name of the object, okay, or the instance of the form object we're creating. So, yeah, hit enter there and start rename it. And you can see that it changed it right here. Okay. The next thing is we're going to modify the form's text property to display red tree N. So, and again, you'll see that right here. Right now it's Form 1. We wanted to change that to red tree in. So what we could do is we go down to text. Okay. So let's call it red tree in. Okay. And you'll notice that it has changed. Okay. So, and then we want to tell the form start position to the center of the screen. So let's go to start position. And we're going to do center screen. It was in the drop down. Okay. And then we want to change the size of the form to 605 and 333. So right here, if we expand this, this is where we can change it. So 605, and then to 333. Okay. And we have successfully changed it. Now we're going to modify the form's properties. All right. So let's find the form's font. And again, this is one that we need to expand. So we're good with Segu UI. Okay. Well, we're going to change the font size to 9. Well, it already is changed to 9. All right. So there's nothing we need to do there. Now, obviously, we could change it to 99. That would be good. Or we could change this to whatever font we want to use. But we're good with that. So I just wanted to show you how you could do that. All right. Uh-oh. So I've changed it to 9 and I've kind of screwed things up. So I better go back down to size and refix these. So what was it? 605 and 333. Okay. That's what happens when you screw around. Okay. All right. Now we're going to add a label from the toolbox and set it to the following property. The name is going to be LBL name, and the font is going to be bold. Font size is going to be 15.75. Location is 315.110, and the text to red tree N. Okay. So let's go ahead and add a label. And again, we're going to look for the label class. We're going to drag that as an object onto our screen. Okay. And so let's select this. And now we're going to change the name to be LBL name. Again, we're following a standard here that we want to abide by. Location is, we're going to expand location right here, and we're going to make the location 315. This will be where in the form it will be displayed, and we're going to change this to 10. So let's go ahead. That's the location. Okay. The font size, let's go back up the font, expand that. The font size is going to be 15.75. Okay, and we want it to be bold. So here. We're gonna make that true. Okay. All right. Let me see. This is verify the size still. Yep, the size is good. And we're going to change the text to red tree N. And let's just expand with the text. Red tree. So this is our first object that we added. Now we want to add a new label. So again, we're going to drag and drop. Okay, so let's find label. We're going to drag and drop it. Okay, and as we look at that, we're going to change the name. Let's go in the order. The name to LBL message. Okay. And again, I like to follow the standards, so I know what I'm calling things, all right? We're going to go down to font, and we're going to expand font. We're going to make that 15.75, just like the last one. All right, we're going to change italics to true. All right, and then we're going to make the location. This time we won't expand it, we'll just change it right here. Sometimes you can do it either way. You know, just follow the format, 315 to and 155. And then finally, we're going to change the text. And the text is going to be what? Relaxing place to hang out. Relaxing place to stay. All right. Cool. Now we're going to do something cool. We're going to add an image. Okay. And the image should already be in our folders. So we're going to just add it to this project. So, we're going to add a picture box. Okay, so look for a picture box, drag it on there. Okay. And so we're going to set the name to be pick red tree. Okay. So we've done that. Okay. Now we're going to go select the image. So let's go to image. So let's click right here, and you're going to get your 3 ellipses that you can click to find out where that image is. Okay. So let's go ahead and click that. Let's try to find that image. Okay. And we're going to, let's go see if we can find it. And we're going to import it. And under chapter 1, you'll see images. And we're going to, now we're going to select this, bring it on in. Okay. And we're going to say, okay. Okay. Now we're going to select the local resource file button and click import button to select a tree graphic, which we did. Now we're going to go to the size mode, and we're going to adjust this, and we're going to make it stretch image because, as you can tell, it's too small. So we're going to say stretch image. Okay. And what we can do now is we can actually stretch the image. Okay. All right. All right. Now we got to add another pick box. We're going to put the RTI in, which is our logo. Okay. So let's go ahead and drag another picture box in. Okay. And we know it's going to be around there somewhere. We're going to rename this to pick okay, pick RTI. Okay, then we're going to go down to image. We're going to hit the ellipses, and we're going to look at the local resources. Okay, we're going to do import, and we're going to import that, which is our logo. Say okay, it's in there. All right, and then we're going to set the size mode once again to stretch image. Okay. And that actually kind of fits. And again, we could put this wherever we want. We could drag it. We could even set the location of that. Okay. I'm actually going to drag it over here. Okay. All right. And then finally, we need a button. Okay. So we're going to add a button control. And so let's drag it onto here. And we're going to use the ampersand once again for that. But first, let's rename it to button exit. Now, so let's name it the button exit. And inside the button, we want to change our text to be exit E. And remember, we're going to use the ampersand for X here. E ampersand XIT. So whenever we hit X, Alt X is going to exit the program. Okay. And that is, oh, we got one last thing to do. Okay. Now we can do visual code, but a real easy thing to do is to double click on the object you want to create code behind for. So let's go ahead and click that. And it actually creates a method for you for that event, which in this case is click. It's going to be, and I'll show you where it does all that at. And we're going to just type in this code, this, which it means this, the form that we're on, dot close. Okay. And again, you get this is trying to guess what you're going to type in. And of course, we have to remember, since we're calling a method, and since C always ends with a semicolon, we have to do that. Okay, but that's our code behind. Now check this out. Okay, as we look at that, if we look at this, and remember I told you, you could see the methods that are being called by the events, that was added there. Okay, it wasn't there before. And now we need to test the application. All right, so how do we test the application? You can simply hit the run button, and it's going to try to build it. And if it builds successfully, it'll create an exe that we will be running. I'm not going to slow down all this to show you this. You're going to have to trust that there was an exe created. Now, this is still in Visual Studio. This is the program. Okay. And now if I hit, I think it's Control X, not Alt X. If I hit Control X, no, it's Alt X. It closes the program. Okay. So anyways, we're happy it works. I was going to let you just try this on your own, but we'll go ahead and try to put a timer in here that will automatically close our form. Okay. So a splash screen normally displays for a couple seconds and then goes away. So as users would come in here, they would see this splash screen, and then they would go into the main program. Okay. And also, a splash screen should not be minimized, maximized, or resized. In other words, it's just there for show. The following adjustments have to be made. Okay. Select the form object. Okay. So right there we have the form object. Okay. And we're going to go to form border style to be fixed single. Okay. So we're in the form. Let's look at the form border style. Okay. Form. I don't see it. Border style. Look at border style. Ah. Oh, that's because I'm here. I need to be unclick that. I need to get over here. I need to be in properties, not the events. Okay. So let's go to form border style. And what we're going to do is we're going to make it fixed single. Okay. Then we're going to go to control box. We don't need any of these controls. Okay. Because we don't want them to use them. We're going to say false. All right. And then finally, we're going to make the text property. We're going to just put empty because we don't care. It displays that. So let's just get rid of red tree in. Okay. All right. So that's what's going to show. Now what we're going to do inside the form, we're going to drop and drag a timer control from the toolbox to the form. And then we're going to set the to the following properties. So let's go ahead and find our timer object here. And there we are. So we're going to drag that onto the form. Okay. And it's not going to display. Okay. And so we've selected that, we have that. What we're going to do is we're going to rename it to timer. And instead of exiting, we're going to use the timer to take us out of the program. And we're going to enable it to true. Okay. So when the form is loaded, it'll start clicking, and so 5,000 is basically 5 seconds. So let's make this 5,000. Okay. And so this event will happen after 5 seconds. Okay. And we're going to remove the exit button from the form. And it wasn't removed, so let's just hit the delete button key. It's gone because we don't need to exit anymore. And the problem is now we need an event for this. Okay. So let's go to the code behind once again. So again, we can do a vision. We can look at the code like this. And this was not removed. Okay. So one really easy way to do this is to double click on here. And now it creates an event for the ticker. So we can just copy this code Remember, you got it down right here. Okay. All right. So if we try to compile it, it's going to blow up. Let's go ahead and try to compile this. We'll just hit the run button. And the problem is that there is no longer this to worry about. Okay. Let's go, let's just let it finish. So okay. To clean this up, I would actually delete this out. It doesn't matter because it will never get called, but it's basically an orphaned method that no longer has a purpose. Okay. So really to clean up your code, you want to delete that out. Oops. We're so running. All right, so I deleted that out and we could try rerunning it. Now watch how the screen will only stay up for 5 seconds. You could count it. We'll try counting it. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. Okay, I counted too slow. But anyways, that is your splash screen. So I want you to try this also. And really that concludes what we need. We've actually gone all the way to the end, okay, of our lecture notes. So please try this. Have fun with it. This will be a good start for you with Visual Studio and C#. I will see you soon. Talk to you later.